Good evening to everyone. We have recently witnessed passing of our fellow student Subhranshu Shekhar on 15th September. I request you all stand up on their respective places and observe 1 minute silence in his honor. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste to one and all present here. I, Akshay Yadav, a student of IT Madras, on behalf of Vande Mataram family, welcome our chief guest of the day, Shri Dushyanth Sridhar, respected faculty member and student of the inaugural lecture of Vande Mataram for the academic year 2022-23. We will have our traditional auspicious lamp lighting ceremony before the start of this event as a tribute to Almighty and the great personalities of Bharat. I request the chief guest and faculty advisor to light the lamp. We pray for the blessing of Almighty with all humility. Give us wisdom to make this world a better place to live in. May the truth always prevail. May the darkness of ignorance be swept away by the dawn of self-realization. Vande Mataram, our national song, embodies the historical, cultural legacy of our nation. Our national song has inherent nature which facilitates every Bharatiya to visualize and bow down in reverence of the divine maternal imagery, Bharat Mata, and inspire everyone to perform their national duty. And we have been proudly following the tradition of singing Vande Mataram song at very beginning of every lecture. Therefore, I request everyone here to stand up on their respective places and join Mr. Charudatta and Ms. Divya to sing our national song. Thank
Mataram Vande Mataram Sujalam Sufalam Malayaj Shitalam Shasya Shamalam Mataram Vande Mataram Shubhra Jyotsna Pulakitayamini Pullakusumita Drumadala Shobhini Suhasini Sumadura Bhashini Sukhadam Varadam Mataram Vande Mataram Vande Mataram.
Yeah. Now, before introducing your honorable chief guest, at first I would like to give a short intro about Vande Mataram and our vision. The Vande Mataram forum at IIT Madras aspire to take initiative that introduce and sensitize the student community about Bharat's rich culture, economic, social, political, and scientific technological heritage. In ramification today and the thought about the roadmap ahead. The sloka from Ramayana, Janani Janmabhumi Satya Sargadapi Garyasya, which means the mother and motherland are superior to heaven, is the philosophy which has kept us going ahead for the 6th year in this institute and strengthen our national consciousness. Now I request my colleague, Mr. Pankaj Kumar, to welcome and introduce our chief guest.
Namaste to all of you. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome our guest speaker, Shri Dushyanth Sridhar, on this event. I request Professor Damodaran sir from Chemistry Department to welcome our guest by presenting him with a fruit basket. Sir. The most sought after public speakers in Sanatana Dharma who renders discourses in Tamil and English. He delivers discourses on Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad, Vishnu Purāna, etc. in upanyāsam, pravachanam or kālakshepam style. Dushyanth has rendered over 3,000 discourses in 125 cities across 23 countries. He has collaborated with eminent musicians to deliver discourses in harikathā style and with renowned dancers in kathā-nritya style. He organizes Yātrās to temples of religious and architectural significance in collaboration with leading tour agents. Till date, they have accompanied over 2,000 pilgrims to 200 temples in India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bali, Cambodia, and Sri Lanka. Besides running the role of protagonist, penned the story, screenplay, and dialogues for the movie Vedānta Desika that was produced by Mukthā Films. He has also directed and produced a Sanskrit film, Sakuntalam, an adaptation of Kalidasa's work, Abhigyan Shakuntalam. Now I request Shri Dushyanth Sridhar sir to deliver his much awaited talk on Bharat through the lens of Puranas and Itihasas. The talk will be followed by a brief Q&A session. Please reserve your questions for Q&A session. Sir.
Dishantu medeva sadattvadiyaha dayataranga anuchara katakshaha shrotreshu pumsam amritam ksharantim saraswatim samshruta kamadhenum. A very good evening to the faculty here, members of the teaching and the non-teaching staff, and to the students who are pursuing different years and different semesters and who are sensing how the campus life is after a hiatus of over 2 years. So the kudos to the virus which has not found more variants and has let us breathe and live in our own space. The topic that I have been ordained to speak today is on Bharata from the lens of the Itihasas and the Puranas. That's the topic that has been given to me. The word Bharata is often regarded as a word that comes from the person called Bharata. And as far as our Itihasas and Puranas know of, there are 4 Bharatas that we come across. The first is the ardent and the fervent brother of Rama, called as Bharata. Some of you, how many of you don't speak the language of the state, which is Tamil? How many of you don't? So probably a lot of you may be amazed by the pronunciation of certain nouns when I say Bharata instead of Bharat. Correct? And this has always been a point of contention when people speak languages. Why do the people of the south of India pronounce certain nouns in a different way, whereas people of the north of India pronounce it in a different way? So, when we take such nouns in the perspective of Sanskritam, the last letter needs to be given its complete sound. Bha-ra-ta together is Bharata. But one of the most spoken languages in different parts of our country is Hindi. And Hindi, though it shares its script with Sanskrit, it has its traces from the other languages like Awadhi, Brajbhasha, Prakrit. So those languages do not permit the sound of the last letter. It has to become not Bharata but Bharat, not Rama but Ram, not Govinda but Govind. So the last sound is taken away. Whereas in Sanskritam it is to be retained. But in the south of India it has come over some, I don't know with due diligence or not, over the years we have started extending the sound of the last letter. So Govinda, Rama, which is also wrong because you're necessitating the word to become a female gender. So when it is masculine in nature, Krishna becomes Krishna. So if at all, imagine we were to time travel like the prisoner of Azkaban, and we were to get during the times of Mahābhārata, and I were to yell, Krishna! My intent is to bring Krishna with the Shankham and Chakram to come before me. Instead, Draupadi will come. Because Draupadi's original name as per the Gazette was Krishna. Yatra Krishnauscha Krishnascha Satyabhamacha Bhamini is the shlokam from Mahābhārata. So it's neither Ram nor Rama, it is Rama. It is neither Govind nor Govinda, but it is Govinda. So, going by these words, so the point again is, it is Bharata. So the original word comes from the fervent brother of Rama. Why should the country be named after him when there were better characters or characters of equal caliber? Why? There is one place in Ayodhya Kandam, the second canto of Valmiki Ramayanam, where we see Shatrughna, who was a very seasoned, poised individual in Ramayana. He drags this hunchbacked woman called as Manthara. She is referred to as Kuni in the Tamil language. Kamban tells, தோன்றிய கூனியும் துடிக்கும் நெஞ்சினாள் ஊன்றிய வெகுளியாள் உழைக்கும் உள்ளத்தாள் கான்று எரி நயனத்தாள் கதிக்கும் சொல்லினாள் மூன்று உலகினிற்கும் ஓர் இடுக்கண் மூட்டுவாள், says Kamban. So she was dragged to the court and she was put in the presence of Bharata, Kaikeyi's son. So Shatrughna remarks, this lady needs to be guillotined, like how it was during the times of the French Revolution. She must be guillotined. So the question there was, why should she be killed? Bharata asks, why should she be killed? She is the root cause of all the agony that we as brothers, as a family, as the citizens are facing. Rama says it's not her mistake. Her duty was to brainwash my mother. She did that job exceedingly well. So why should I kill her? Oh, then do you mean, Bharata, that it is your mother who should be killed? Because it was her duty to brainwash, so who asked her to get brainwashed? So Kaikeyi should be killed. Bharata says, no, it's not my mother who is to be killed or even scolded. Oh, do you mean it's my father, our father Dasharatha, who was so much so henpecked that he had to listen to his wife's words and banish our brother to the forest? No, it is not our father. Oh, do you mean it's Rama's mistake for having followed the words of his father and gone to the forest? He should have sued his father. Rather, do you mean it's my brother's mistake? No, Shatrughna. This is neither the mistake of Manthara, the hunchbacked woman. It is neither the mistake of Kaikeyi, who was brainwashed. It is not the mistake of Dasharatha, who seems to have been henpecked. Not the mistake of Rama, who followed the commands, who has gone to the forest. It is my mistake. Had Bharata, a character called Bharata, not been born, none of these people would have suffered. So it is my mistake. So Bharata puts a very, very diplomatic, yet if we get into it, probably a very indigenous statement that it is my mistake. Probably this line of Bharata spoken in Ayodhya of Uttar Pradesh during the times of, we call it the Treta Yuga, has echoed in the ears of a little girl called Andal, who lived during the times of the Pandyas in a small hamlet called Sriviliputtur, who puts it in Tirupavai, Nanedan Aiduga. It is me who has committed the mistake. So, our acharyas, our progenitors, our forefathers have believed for a very long time that to resolve a lot of battles right from beginning, from tussles and tiffs inside the family to the wars that nations fight. If people own up their mistake, a lot of the problems could get solved. So Bharata was one character who gave some ethos to the country, and thereby to echo this character, from that Bharata it became Bharata. One. Because the topic says Bharata. So my delineation for the day is the delineation of the topic. So I'm still in Bharata. So the second Bharata that we come across is Jada Bharata. So Jada Bharata comes in both Bhāgavatam and Vishnu Purāna. We see that there was a king called Rishabha Deva or Rishabhanatha, believed to be the first Tirthankara of Jainism. He had many sons. The first son was Bharata. And this Bharata, while he was given the responsibility to administer, he was completely against us. He did not bother about administration. All that he was concerned was to look inwards, to internalize. So he is said to have left that place and gone into the forest. And as he was meditating, supposedly one day he saw a pregnant deer running from one bank to the other, being chased by a tiger or a lion. The Puranas vary. So today let's keep it for the cheetahs. So let the cheetah be chasing the pregnant deer. And then the deer, out of anxiety and fear, delivered its little one there. And that one was to be saved, and this Rishi managed to save that little one. And in the due course, all his attention was to nurture the little one and not to concentrate on his inward internalizing journey, which he was into. So he took so much care of the little one, the fawn, let's call it the fawn, that one day while he was dying, he was about to die. There is a very terrific process called Tristhuna Kshobanam in Vedanta, how the Jivatma departs from the body. So while he was undergoing that, all his thoughts was on the little one, what it would be doing, who will be doing harm to it, whether it would be eating or not. So he thought of the deer, and at that instant when the sentient matter called the Jivatma, which is a belief in Sanatana Dharma that resides in the material body, was about to depart, his thought, his memory was on the deer. So the next Janma, when the Atma goes, it became the deer. It's called Tada. Whatever you think of while your Atma is exiting, you shall be that. So he became the deer. So this is where the story should end. लेकिन वो क्या डायलॉग है, पिक्चर बाकी है मेरा दोस्त ना, वैसा ही इधर से शुरू होता है कुछ. So while he became the deer, he was able to remember of his previous janma. So this happens in the Shastras. It is said 1 in 10,000 or a lakh are bestowed with the memory of their past births. They are referred to as Jati Smaraha, people who can remember of the past. I don't remember the full name of the person. It's Dr. Wees, right, who gave the One World, Many Masters, or Many Masters, Many Lives. So in his series of books, he is a psychiatrist and a psychologist in a combo who talks about how he used to deal with patients in the West, and their utterings during the hypnosis used to be recorded, and then he understood that there is one civilization that talks about the previous births. They are referred to as Jati Smaraha. So this deer could remember its previous birth. It continued internalizing in its own janma, and then again became a human being, and he was again called Bharata. Everything is a coincidence here. So he had matted locks to which he used to tie himself with, and that gave him his identity. He was called Jada Bharata. This Jada Bharata, while he was walking in the forest, he was very careful about the creatures running on the ground, and he should not be disturbing them. One day, looking at his fat, so well-built body, the people who were carrying the palanquin of the king called Rahuguna Maharaja, who was of Sindhu Sauvira country, catch this man and say, you should also be one of the persons carrying the palanquin. While the palanquin was being carried, Bharata's concentration was on the ants, that they should not be disturbed. So he jumps and jumps. So every time he jumped, the palanquin also jumped. So the king got out and said, who is this new person who's carrying the palanquin in a very, very amateur fashion? Then is when he asks this person, you are very fat, you look well built, Why are you not able to carry? So this person remarks, I am neither fat, I am neither well built. The I in me doesn't have a shape. So this king gets into a tizzy. He understands, what do you mean by this? And that is when the concept of Atma, Shariram comes in. I don't want to get into the me of it, because there's already been too many dialogues of the me, the me, the me. So let's park it aside. So this is where the philosophic, the Vedantic knowledge of the Sharira and the Atma come in. So this is the second Bharata, called as Jada Bharata. Since he was so much into philosophy and he saw the ethos within a civilization, the country should also see what its civilizational past and work on it for the future. So Bharata Desham got a name from this Bharata called Jada Bharata, Bharata number 2.0. There's a third Bharata. This Bharata was the son of Shakuntala. Dushyanthi is his name. Later he was called Bharata. In the Shatapatha Brahmana, which is a part of the Shukla Yajurveda. Any people who follow Shukla Yajurveda here? Okay. So Shukla Yajurveda is not very common to the south of India, found in different parts of Gujarat and in the north. Very rare pockets of the South India have Shukla Yajurveda. They have an integral component called Shatapatha Brahmana. In that Shatapatha Brahmana, it is mentioned that Dushyanthi, the son of Dushyanta called Bharata, was a very good administrator. So administration is also very integral to keeping your subjects intact and to keep the country running. So after that Bharata, this Bharata must have come. So it is called Bharata Desham. So Rama's brother Bharata, Jada Bharata. Third is this Bharata, who is the son of Dushyanta and Shakuntala. Fourth is, of course, the Muni called Bharata Muni, who is the progenitor of Natya Shastram. Bhava Raga Talam Ityanena Bharatam. So Bharata, Bhava Raga Talam. So it's called Bharata Natya Shastram. So that was the Bharata Muni who gave us this. So this Bharata, the topic that has been given, Bharata, this is the cause of Bharata. But what does it go beyond that to explain Bharata? If we have to understand Jada Bharata, he talks about Jnana Yogam. If we think about Dushyanta's and Shakuntala's son called Bharata, he talks about Karma Yogam. If we have to understand Bharata Muni, he talks about Nritya Yogam. Through dance you can reach the Lord. Through music you can reach the Lord. So there are different ways. Finally comes Bharata, Rama's brother, who is Bhakti Yogam incarnate. Bharataya param namostu tasmai prathamodaharanaya bhakti bhajam yadupagyam asheshataha prithivyam pratitho raghava paduka prabhavaha, says the polymath of the 13th century, a poet extraordinaire, a sagacious dietitian, a consummate dramatist, a polyglot himself, a lesser known mathematician called Vedānta Desika in the 13th century in his magnum opus poem called Paduka Sahasram. So Bharatam as a country is a conglomerate of Karma Yogam, Bhakti Yogam and Jnana Yogam. I spoke about Jada Bharata, who had memories of his past. He was able to remember what had happened in his previous births. Jati Smaraha. So you need to remember your past so that it doesn't recur again in the future if it is not conducive for the society. Draupadi was an example for it. She wanted to keep reminding the Pandavas that what has happened to me should not occur to me again, not to any other woman. That is how she keeps her hair open. So it's called Veni Samharam by Bhattanarayana, a beautiful drama as to how this work happened. It's called Veni Samharam. So one is Jnana Yoga that tells you don't forget the past. Draupadi is an example. Karma Yoga, how to administer, how to take care of it. There is a sargam called Kaschit Sargam in Ramayana where Rama asks his brother Bharata, do you rule like this? Do you administer like this? So if the administrator administered, there was a super body above that to check how the administrator was actually doing it. So that is Karma Yoga. And Bhakti Yoga finally comes wherein you believe in something beyond what you can perceive and understand. And that is what leads to bhakti. So the topic says Bharata from the lens of Itihasas and Puranas. We have often learnt and understood Ramayanam is one important Itihasa. Sri Mahabharatam is another important Itihasa. And then when we come across Puranas, we come across Vishnu Purānam, Bhāgavata Puranam, Shiva Puranam, Linga Puranam, Varaha Puranam, Narada Puranam, and so on. How do we see the oneness coming in these Puranas and Itihasas? Are they interconnected? Or are they separate reports and they have left the home assignment to us for us to integrate and check if there are any common elements? In Srimad Ramayanam, we come across one particular Sambhavam. Rama has been asked to go to the forest for 14 years. So he understands his position and then he goes to the harem of his mother and he tells her, Mata Kaushalya, I would like to go to the forest. She says, till yesterday I thought you were to become the higher apparent. When did this plan change? It changed just now. I've been asked to go to the forest. So do take care. The world is small. Let's stay in touch. With all these conclusive statements, he said, okay, I'm going to the forest. The mother said, I shall also come with you to the forest. No, this is not possible, mother, because why should you undergo all the ordeal that I have to undertake? I have been asked to undergo all of this. You can stay back. That time, Kaushalya, she calls her son and she tells, now that you have decided to go to the forest is infested with poisonous thorns and plants. So, my dear son, I shall bless you. My blessings shall be your armor, your kavacham. But you know what? I am going to bless you with those two verses. What Vinata blessed her son Garuda when he went on a sojourn to get ambrosia called the nectar. Like how Vinata, now there are two more characters introduced. Vinata sent her son Garuda to fetch Amritam. So while the son Garuda left that place, the mother blesses him with two verses. I shall repeat those verses and bless you. This is what Ramayanam says. It says, Yanmangalam suparnasya vinata akalpayat pura. Amritam prarthayanasya tatute bhavatu mangalam. Like how Suparna was blessed by his mother Vinata, I am blessing you. She tells those two verses, she blessed, I am blessing you with those two verses. But Ramayanam doesn't make a mention of what those two verses were. It just says, Andha rendu varigalal unnai naan aasirvadikkindrain pillai. But what are those two verses? You read Mahābhāratam, the first chapter called Adi Parva, in that there is Garuda Upakhyanam where Vinata tells those two verses. Pakshaute marutaf patu chandrasuryau cha prishtataha shirascha patu vanhiste. She blesses those two verses. So if I read Ramayanam and then Mahabharatam, I know that this is one beautiful connect between Ramayanam and Mahabharatam. So we keep telling, things have to talk to each other. Right? Even in the subjects that we have bequeathed from our ancestors, at least during the school education, shouldn't subjects talk? So for example, I learned geography. Shouldn't I know the history inside the geography as to how this subject has evolved? So every subject has facets of different subjects in it. It is very similar to, in the Shastra angle, we mention of the creation of the Panchabhutas through a process called as quintuplification. It's called as Panchikarana Prakriya. So, of the Panchabhutas, Akashad Vayuhu, Vayor Agnihi, Agnerapaha, Adbhyav Prithivi, Prithivya Moshadayaha, Akasham has 50% of its characteristic feature in it. The remaining 50% divides itself into 12.5, 12.5, 12.5, 12.5. Now, this 12.5 of Akasham gets in connect or contact with the Agni Tattvam, and that is how you see various Tattvas in this world. So, Shastram tells that no element, gross element of the Panchabhutas that you see is purely itself. It has elements of other Panchabhutas in it. Similarly, The Itihasas and Puranas should not be seen in silos. They are very well connected to each other. There is another beautiful place in Srimad Ramayanam. At the commencement of Ramayana, it is said that Indra, who was heading the celestials, went and sought the asylum of somebody superior to him called Narayana and said, there are too many demoniac forces. Please help annihilate all of them. The Lord says, okay, fine, I shall be born, and I want the help of all of you, so should you be born alongside me as supporting creatures. Towards the end of Ramayanam, when Rama has been coronated in Yuddha Kandam for a Pattabhishekam, every celestial happens to attend that particular coronation but Indra. So he dispatches his gift of a beautiful string of pearls through Varuna and says, this is my gift. I am not able to come personally. So this act is seen as an act of being ungrateful. And then in Krishna Avataram, when Krishna is said to have lifted the Govardhana Parvatam, and later the Govinda Pattabhishekam happens, nobody comes to the coronation of Krishna as Govinda except Indra. So in Rama Pattabhishekam, everybody else comes but Indra. In Krishna Avataram, nobody else comes but Indra. So there is a connect between Bhāgavatam, which is a Purana, and the Itihasa as well. At the commencement of Ramayanam, we have this question asked by Valmiki. Konvasmin sampratam loke gunavan kascha viryavan dharmajnascha kritajnascha satyavakyo dridhavrataha charitrena cha koyuktaha sarvabhuteshu kohitaha vidwan kakkas samarthascha kaschaika priyadarshanaha atmavan ko jitakrodaha dyutiman ko anasuyakaha kasya bibhyati devascha jataroshasya sanyuge. Who is the one who is a repository of the 16 auspicious attributes? Is Valmiki's question. The third attribute in that was Kritagnyascha. In Hindi, what is Kritagnyata? Kuch to boliye. Gratitude, gratefulness. What is the word, okay, in Hindi for ungrateful? Very good. Kritaghna. So there is a small difference in the subtle difference in the pronunciation. Kritagnya is grateful. Kritaghna is ungrateful. So the question asked by Valmiki was, who is the one who is an embodiment of gratefulness? So the answer, of course, given by Narada is Ikshvaku Vamsha Prabhavaha Ramo Nama Janaishrutaha. The one of the Ikshvaku Kulam, Rama is the embodiment of gratitude. Now, where do we see his gratitude? Him listening to his father and going to the forest is not actually gratitude. Either it was a wrong decision, or it could have been a decision that he had taken because he loved his father. It may not be an exemplification of his gratitude. So there is one place towards the end of Ayodhya Kandam where Rama rests on Sita's lap and vice versa. She too keeps her head on his lap and they rest after a sumptuous lunch prepared by Lakshmana. Lakshmana was the all-in-one person in that particular trio. He swept, he mopped, he cooked, he washed, he did everything. So Sita was absolutely for the idea that Lakshmana should come along with them. So she made complete use of it. She was worried if there is a lockdown put, who is going to do all of this work? So let there be a person with me. So Lakshmana was used to the fullest. So after the sumptuous meal that they had, they were resting on each other's laps. That is when Rama gets up because he senses there is some disturbance. Some disturbance. He gets up and sees that Sita's sari, vastram, has been drenched in blood. Then he immediately checks around who could have done this treatment, who could have done this to Sita. Then he sees the tree under whose shade they were seated. The branch had a kaka, which is a crow. And the crow's beaks were reddish with one drop of blood coming down from it. And he sensed that this bird could have done this. And he takes up a blade of grass. And in the Dhanur Vidya, it is said, it is a upanga, it is said that with certain austerities, objects that we see around can be converted into astras. So any object can be converted into an astra. I refuse to believe in this science unless and until I saw the live parliament session where mics could also become weapons. So, Rama takes a blade of grass and makes it into an astram. This process of converting any object into a missile or a weapon was called as aishikam. So he uses aishikam, converts it and leaves it on the crow. Trin lokant samparikramya tameva sharanam gataha, says Vyasa in a Purana. It went around to different places, went around. It is believed that this crow was actually an offspring of Indra. So he goes and taps at the door of Indra, and the father says, no, I can't do it. The son asks, what have I done which you have not done? Right? You have managed to kidnap, you have managed to humiliate women, you have been a part of Me Too. So why should I be bearing all the brunt? Indra kept quiet. He went to the doors of many other celestials whom he believed had the aura to protect him, but none of them. He came back to Rama, and it is believed that one of the eyes of the crow was taken. Now, in the literature, in the literary world, we believe that from that day onwards, the crows have only one eye. Though it has both the eyes, from that incident, there is a nyayam called kakakshi golaka nyayam. So it is believed that crows have two sockets, but only one eyeball. So they don't look at you straight in the eye. They either look this way or that way. So as they look, the balls keep changing, the sockets remain the same. So this is a belief to say that for the husband and the wife, though they seem like two individuals, if most of their thoughts are aligned and alike, life could be a better journey. So it is like kakakshi golaka nyayam. So this crow was not killed. Just one of its eyes was taken. There came $1 million question. This crow physically assaulted Sita out of that little lust and love for her tender skin. But it lost one of its eye. Ravana managed to kidnap Sita, but he was very, very respectful towards her. Every day he would come threaten her or lure her with the best of the silk saris and the jewelry and say, you have to get married to me in 2 months. And then he would go. So, sirf dhamkiyan dena. Sirf wohi tha unka jo function. But he lost his life. So the one who physically assaulted Sita was the crow, but nothing big harm came to it. It managed to survive. Whereas Ravana, he kidnapped, but he didn't do better harm to Sita, but he lost his life. Why? That is when Ramayana tells, Vadharham api kakutsthaha kripaya paryapalayat. Though the crow was completely qualified to be killed, it was not killed. Vadharham api, but Rama saved its life. Instead of calling him Rama, for a moment Valmiki says, he is Kakutstha, the one who has come in the lineage of a king called Kakutstha. So the one who came in the lineage of a king called Kakutstha, who's Rama, who's also called Kakutstha, did not kill the crow. What does he imply? Because this Kakutstha, who was one of the predecessors of Rama, while he was called, his original name was Mandhata. He was called by Indra to fight the demons. One day, apparently, while fighting the demons, the chariot lost its hold and it broke. So you can't fight in a chariotless arena because you need to store your weapons somewhere. Probably Indra tried fetching one chariot. There was no supply that day. He said, let me turn into a bull. He turned into a bull and said, let this be a raised platform for you. You stand on me and fight. Mandhata stood on the bull. And while Indra turned into the bull and Mandhata stood atop it, he went slightly high on the hump of the bull. Since this king stood on the hump of the bull, the hump is called Kaku. Since he stood on Kaku, he was called Kakutstha. So Indra indirectly helped the king fight. He became the bull. So he was called Kakutstha. Rama came in the lineage of Kakutstha, so he was called Kakutstha. So today, if he kills Indra's son, which is the crow, he may prove as a very ungrateful person to his ancestor who was helped by Indra himself. So he did not kill the crow and left it with one eye out. So Valmiki says, Vadharham api kakutstha kripaya paryapalayat. So to the question asked by Valmiki, who is the one who is filled with gratitude? He says, Rama is the one. So this answer comes only if you look into the Itihasa with the etymology of that particular word. So Itihasas and Puranas have always been talking to each other, and there is a lot of intersection when you come across Itihasas and Puranas. So Bharata as a desham, as a country, has a lot to learn from the Itihasas and Puranas. Just now I mentioned about Rama turning a blade of grass, just a blade of grass, into a weapon. This incident was enough for the people of this state, the Tamil Nadu, to say that for a person who's adept with a lot of talents and has the power, he can turn even a blade of grass into a weapon. Vallavanukku pullum ayudam. So even the proverbs and the sayings and the similes that we carry in our day-to-day life from all states. Rajas, where is my photographer? So Rajas is from Maharashtra. So Maharashtra gave a beautiful commentator to Kalidasa's works called Mallinatha. So Mallinatha was a critique. He used to critique, like the Subudu of the Carnatic world. He used to critique. So he was such a prominent and a very well-versed commentator from Maharashtra that from then on, even in the Marathi usage, if someone criticizes or critiques, they would say Mallinathi. So commentators became a part of the colloquial and the local language. So if we look at Bharata Desham through the lens of Itihasas and Puranas, as a civilization, quietly, clandestinely, and at times openly, we have learnt a lot from the episodes mentioned in our Itihasas and Puranas, and we have formulated our civilization. So with this, I just had a few thoughts about Bharata from the lens of Itihasas and Puranas. I can go on and on about Kanika's anecdotes to Dhritarashtra and Rama convincing Sugriva that Vibhishana had to be accepted while he sought asylum from coming from a neighboring country. So a lot of these incidents have a lot of connects. But I honestly feel that I should keep a lot of my duration for questions from this august audience. So I shall stop here. Feel free to ask questions, and feel free to also listen to the answer, I don't know. So if I don't know the answer to the question, I'll simply say I don't know. Feel free to ask any question that has been disturbing you, tormenting you, that has made you disbelieve, that has made you believe. Please, let somebody, good Homo sapien, do the honors here. Yeah.
Hello.
If Bharat was the better administrator during the 14 years of that deployment in the forest, so why we glorify Ram Raj but not Bharat Raj?
Okay. So, I hope the question is clear. Now, if after the times of Dasharatha, if Rama was to rule and Rama couldn't rule because he was sent on an exile to the forest, in the intermediate 14 years, Bharata was the one who administered the kingdom. So why can't it be called Bharata Rajyam and not Rama Rajyam? In fact, I'll be the devil's advocate and add 2 more points to Rama Rajyam. It was in Rama Rajyam that the pregnant Sita was sent to the forest. It was in Rama Rajyam that Shambhuka was killed. It was in Rama Rajyam that he let his wife who was pregnant raise his children as a single mother. So how could Rama Rajyam be extolled while Bharata Rajyam had none of this? First of all, it was not Bharata who ruled. Bharata was just the person who executed orders. He said, I will not rule. What did he take in return? No, मैं क्या पूछ रहा हूँ, जब भरत आए थे, what is your mother tongue? हिंदी. तो भरत आए थे, तो उन्होंने बोला कि राम जी आप पहले अयोध्या आ जाइए, come back to Ayodhya. Rama said, I will not come till 14 years is over. Okay, so I'll come back after 14 years. So instead he gave his padukas. He gave Rama paduka. So Rama padukas were kept on the throne, and anybody who called for a function like this and said, Bharatanukku vandu naangal siranda amaichar enginra pattattai alikindrom. Just imagine Bharata was to be given the best award for governance. Bharata would say, I am not ruling at all. You and I say Bharata ruled. Bharata says it was only Rama padukas that ruled. So if your question could be treated this way, I'll just rephrase your question. If paduka, see in Sanatana Dharma, we don't treat slippers as just slippers, inanimate object. We give so much of accordance. See, we go to a museum, they say Gandhiji's spectacles. So we attach a lot of importance to the possessions of great people. So the padukas of Rama are treated with utmost respect. Now, padukas ruled Ayodhya. So your question I will rephrase. If Rama Paduka's Rajyam for 14 years was so good, why should we not call it Paduka Rajyam, and why do we call it Rama Rajyam? Is that okay for you? Yeah, it may not speak or it may not answer. In a way, Bharata only ruled. So you're saying Bharata Rajyam. Now, when we have to understand Rama Rajyam from a perspective, Rama was a stickler. He was the one who stuck to whatever rules were found on the book. Bharata was not so like that. If we take Bharata for example, Rama said you will have to go back to Ayodhya and rule. In those days, see, we should not equate the times of Ramayana in the times we live. In those days, following the words of your parents and your elder brother was like 200% you have to follow. If the father said go to the forest, Rama did. But what did Rama tell Bharata? Bharata, go back to Ayodhya. But Bharata did not do that. He stayed in Nandigramam and he ruled. So personally, Bharata, though he may have been bereft of all the comforts that Rama had, in a way he was not a person who was completely obedient to Rama. Second, during administration, what happens is hero worship is a big bane to our society. For example, let us take the state of Tamil Nadu or Andhra, where we hero worship a lot of actors. Actors become like close to deities. You know, some of the actresses even have temples in the state of Tamil Nadu. So they are that sacrosanct. So when we go into the concept of hero worship, when we see one person, we love that person, we may fail to recognize another person with equal or better caliber. Same thing happened in Ramayana. Bharata during Ayodhya Kandam is showcased as a person who immensely loved Rama. But people like his mother Kaikeyi, father Dasharatha, Guru Vasishtha, friend Guha, they all fail to understand the bhakti of Bharata because they loved Rama so much. So they developed prejudice on Bharata. So to your question that the 14 years of Bharata Rajyam was so scam free and spotless and blemishless, whereas Rama Rajyam had its own small blemishes that we see from our point of view. One Acharya called Vedānta Desika states in Paduka Sahasram, if I tell this, some people may disagree. He says that if I tell this, some people may disagree. When Padukas with Bharata ruled Ayodhya, there were no scams, no allegations. Whereas when some other people ruled, there were some allegations. He keeps quiet. You know what he says is, Bharata Rajyam or Paduka Rajyam was more successful than Rama Rajyam. But people don't say it because we all hero worship. Say to whom? To ourselves. To ourselves that even though in our general lives we may come across a lot of people who are extremely talented but they may not make it to the top, unlike a few other people who may have little talents who may make it to the top, we are like Padukas and they are like Ramas. Right. Next question. Yeah, so I'll go there. Yeah. You're asking a question. Yeah, please,
ma'am. Ram is known as grateful because he refused to, he because he killed Ravan even though Ravan never touched Sita. But
No, I didn't say touched. He did not force himself. While he kidnapped Sita, Vame Vankau. So with his left hand he held Sita's thigh, and then the other hand he held her hair tresses and carried. It's not about touching. It's about coaxing himself, forcing upon. Yeah.
so wasn't Ram born with this sole intention of killing Ravan because it was his duty in his life?
So in the commentaries of Ramayana, there are two dharmas which are cited. One is called Samanya Dharmam. The second is called Vishesha Dharmam. Samanya Dharmam is the common purpose for which he was born. Vishesha Dharmam is something very extraordinary for which he was born. Even we can choose to have those purposes for us. Why am I born? What is the common purpose? To breathe in, eat, sleep. Something extraordinary, to do something for our family and our society. So the commentator says Samanya Dharmam Pitruvakya Paripalanam and Ravanavadham. That is, he was born to exemplify the words of his father and annihilate Ravana. That was a Samanya Dharmam, common dharma. Vishesha Dharmam was to exemplify Saushiliam. Saushiliam is a beautiful word which means, though you may be born in a different economic status, you will have to move with different elements and parts of the society with equal respect. So Rama exemplified that. Though he was an aristocrat born into the richest of the rich family, he made friends with Guha, he made friends with Sugriva, he made friends with Vibhishana. One was a monkey, the other was a Rakshasa, the other was a forest dweller. So to exemplify this quality that you need to make friends and treat people equally in the society was Saushiliam. So his Vishesha Dharma was Saushilya, Samanya Dharmam was Ravanavadam. Your question again.
So my question is that Valmiki says Ram is the epitome of gratefulness because he killed Ravan, but he didn't kill a crow which actually harmed Sita.
Correct.
So it was his duty to kill Ravan anyway. So why is he still called grateful?
See, you need a Vyajam to kill Ravana. For example, if the Lord is born as Rama, then very next day he cannot walk up to Lanka and say, I've been born to kill you, I'll kill you. He needs an incident. That's when the kidnapping happened. If the kidnapping had not happened, probably we will be saved of hours of discourses of Ramayana, right? So he kidnapped. So he needed a Vyajam. He needed a Karanam there. So the Karanam was kidnapping of Sita. More than that, there were about 6 cases of molesting of Ravana against women. So in Ramayanam, if you see from Kishkinda Kandam to Ayodhya Kandam, he misbehaved with his brother's son's girlfriend. Brother was Kubera, half brother. His son was Nalakubera. Nalakubera's girlfriend was Rambha. So Rambha tells Ravana that you cannot force yourself on me. I am in a way related to you like a daughter. He says, I don't believe in such relationships, and he forces himself upon her. He molests Punjikasthala. He molests the wife of Takshaka in a city called Bhogavati. Then he misbehaves with an ascetic woman called as Vedavati. So there were many cases of him mishandling women and disrespecting women. Though he did not personally coax himself on Sita, as an administrator on supervision sent by Bharata to the neighboring country, it was Rama's duty to annihilate Ravana. Yeah. Next question.
Thank you for the talk. It was yeah. Hello, I am Murari. I am 5th year dual degree student here at.
Hi, Murari.
So I have 2 questions. One is technical and one is practical. First one is, as you said, Puranas and Itihasas are correlated and both should go together. Similarly, there is an argument that Smriti Shastras and Shruthi Shastras are independent and they can't be correlated together. How can we correlate it together? Because many of them don't tell, there are no correlations as far as I heard.
See, when we deal with Smriti Vakyam, they all come like aphorisms. For example, let's take even a verse from Purusha Suktam. It says, Ajayamano bahudha vijayate. The one who is unborn, Ajaha, the one who is unborn, bahudha vijayate, is born many a times. The one who is unborn is born many a times. As a statement, it is an oxymoron. If he is unborn, he should not be born many a times. If he is born many a times, he should not be called unborn. So this is the statement. This is a Shruti Vakyam. Now let us understand the perspective of the avatarams. We deal with incarnations. We say that the Supreme was born as Rama. The Supreme was born as Krishna. Now, how is that birth correlated with our birth? My birth and his birth may seem the same, but they are different. I was born as a result of my karma. I did not have the right to choose my mother and father. They didn't have a right to choose me. I was born as a result of my karma. Karmadhina janmam is mine. Whereas when the Lord is born, the statement goes, Pitaram rochayamasa tatha dasharatham dripam. The Lord chose Dasharatha as his father. So for him it is ichadina janmam, wish-based birth. For me it is karma-based birth. So the Lord is born. He is actually the unborn. There is no factor like karma which is there for me compelling him to be born. He is born as a result of his desire. So, Ajayamano, the one who is unborn, Bahudha Vijayate, is born as Rama and Krishna. Now the Vakyam is a Shruti Vakyam. Ajayamano Bahudha Vijayate. Puranas and Itihasas are the other spectrum of Sanatana Dharma. It says that he was born as Rama and Krishna. So I can correlate this statement with that and say, yes, this statement is like an aphorism. The example or the exemplification is found in Ramayana and Bhāgavata. So when we say correlation, we should not equal them. We should see the equivalence. So we should see that this concept is seen there. This concept is seen there. For example, Ishavasya Upanishad says, Ishavasyam idam sarvam. What you see around is the Parabrahman himself. When Rama enters the forest, the rishis say, Tevayam bhavata rakshya bhavad vishayavasinaha nagarastho vanastho va tvamno raja janeshwaraha. You are the one who envelops the entire world, Rama. So Ishavasya Upanishad says Parabrahman envelops the world. Here he says Rama envelops the world, thereby implying that Ishvara Tattvam is Rama Tattvam. That is the way you correlate. But you did mention that Shruti Vakyam and Smriti Vakyam cannot be correlated, right? That's what you said.
Means there are two sects as far as I have seen. So
yeah, so there are two sets. If there are two categories, they can still talk to each other. See, if my I have a certificate in engineering. I don't claim to be an engineer. So, way back while I studied in Pilani, there were certain subjects common to the mechanical and the chemical group. While I studied, we used to have thermodynamics, and I think mass transfer operations or something was common to both mechanical and chemical. So, there are two streams. They can still have some commonalities, right? Isn't that true here? Or you have completely different subjects? I don't know.
kind of.
Okay. So, any other question? Oh, second part to your question, the practical one.
Yeah.
Haja puchiye.
That is little different from this, but
Yeah.
So the question was, these Puranas and Itihasas tell many lessons for us to take upon, and in modern era, people have gone away from Sanatana Dharma because of various reasons, maybe due to not coming from many people not telling them rightly or something. On the other hand, people are taking up Western culture very easily, and so in modern era, how in practical way, how can we motivate people to take up this Sanatana Dharma voluntarily?
Okay. Murari, right? Yeah. Murari, since you've asked this question to me, IMHO, in my humble opinion, I feel Sanatana Dharma is not evangelist in nature. We don't end up going to the society telling that, okay, there are so many good things, come to my society or come to my fold. We believe that this civilization is a lot inward. If you and I, or you or I, have had the opportunity to learn some interesting facets of Sanatana Dharma and we would like to internalize it and follow it, we have to follow. If the society is going in a certain way, we don't have to worry about that because that is also a part of Sanatana Dharma. So we leave the society as is. So Western culture, Western thoughts, if that is how Kali Yugam has to go, it has to go that way. We can't do much about it.
Just extension to that. Some foreign people are also interested in Sanatana Dharma, and how does Vedas talk about them? Are they also encouraged to follow these?
Of course. So when you had Kala Yavana coming and having a negotiation with Jarasandha of Magadha Desham, which is current day Bihar, Kala Yavana belonged to Greece. Manthara and Kaikeyi, historians opine that she belonged to Kekeya Desham, which is Afghanistan. But one of the greatest sages who lived in the last 100 years, Paramacharya of Kanchi, called Kanchi Shankaracharya Chandrasekharendra Saraswati, used to remark that she could have belonged to Russia. So the concept of a foreign daughter-in-law being in the country has been there for quite some time.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you can surely extend your arms and welcome such people. But if they are not, we don't have to form an opinion about them. They like it, they come. They don't like it, they don't come. Simple.
Thank you for a wonderful session. So, just a continuation of that question I want to ask.
I am sure you'll be having a good name. What's it?
Chandramouli.
Oh, hi Chandramouli. Tell me.
So you said Sanatana Dharma is most about inward thing, but then what is the purpose? Like we see Valmiki writing Ramayana. He could have just internalized his Rama's glories and he could have become a good devotee, right? And Vyasadeva written 18 Puranas, Vedānta and everything. So there is also aspect of telling to others, otherwise there is no need to compose. And even our Acharyas travelled a lot, Shankaracharya travelled, Ramacharya travelled. So there is a both sides. One is internalizing and also seeing that, okay, I am got so much benefited, let others also get the similar benefit. So
no, you're making a valid point, but what is your question?
Like, I'm telling that you said we just go away. So that is one thing, but I feel we'll understand that. Okay, so there are
I get your point.
Yeah.
Say Chandramouli, Murari, me, and I didn't catch your name. Sneha. So we are all, let's say we are all belonging to one category. But you did take the names of some of the stalwarts of Sanatana Dharma like Shankara, Ramanuja, Valmiki, Vyasa. So how many such names can you give me? If I just give you 10 minutes, how many names can you give me? Roughly? 20?
50.
50. 100? 200? Okay. Compared to the Indian population, that number is still a small minuscule. I am talking about the 99% of us. I cannot write a Ramayanam. I cannot write a Mahābhāratam. All that I can do is to read Valmiki's Ramayanam and speak about it. Exactly. Vyasa's Mahābhāratam and speak about it. Your question is, you're asking me, you're speaking about Sanatana Dharma, talking about the inward journey, internalizing. Isn't it also about speaking to the outside world? Am I right?
Yes.
Nobody stops you from speaking to the outside world. But that shouldn't be the motto. In the process of internalizing, certain experiences may come out through my mouth. So this is a byproduct. The main product is internalizing. See, if internalizing is not the motto of understanding our scriptures, then we will not be having people with extreme discipline in their lives. You discipline yourself only when you have an inward journey. So when you internalize, you show that in your anushtanam. And later you speak about it to a few people. Shankara, Ramanuja could do that because they internalized so well, they lived a life which in itself became a lesson for others, and over and above that they preached. But in our cases, I can't speak for you or Sneha or for anybody, at least in my case I speak because they have called. But I know that I know a lot of things about Itihasas and Puranas. Honestly, I have not realized much of it. There is a difference between knowing and realizing, because I don't give time to myself to internalize that. Only when I internalize will I realize. I know Rama did this, Bharata did that, but knowing is of no use. I have to realize that. I have to understand how much of it goes into me. So I don't give time to it because I keep doing all these pravachans, right? It's only outward, nothing inward. I have to give some more time for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's basically when we internalize, that natural response comes automatically. We can also, that comes automatically. You need to put separate effort for that.
Kind of, yes.
Unless somebody asks us to speak.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's me. Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
I saw one another girl in the back. She raised her hand, but yeah. You have a question?
We'll take one last question.
Okay.
After this.
Your canteen is open till 9, right? Okay.
So my name is Kirtana, and I
Hi,
basically
Kirtana.
wanted to add on a question to what she asked. So basically, you said that Rama killed Ravana, but for what? Like we know that it is evil that was destroyed, but what was the evil over there? Was it arrogance, or was it something more complicated?
He was a fulcrum of various thoughts. See, first of all, in our serials and the movies that we see, we often see Ravana with maybe like black dress, and he's been demonized. But when we look at the Puranas in different facets, and especially the Mula Pramanam, which is Ramayanam, he was a very good administrator. He was very well read, very well educated. He was the one who could even compete with Shiva for Samaganam, and he also had extreme devotion for Shiva. He was a very good administrator, very good warrior. Hanuman in Sundarakandam wonders at the scars found on his chest and says, what a great warrior he has been. So keeping that aside, he also had an other face to himself. He was not respectful towards women. When I say respectful, you can include any of those kings in those days because they were all polygamous. So when you are polygamous in nature in itself, there is no respect for the woman because you're not treating that person as a complete. You want many add-ons. So in that case, you cannot treat him. But he was not respectful to women in many ways. He used to molest. He used to humiliate them. So there was a big blot on his character. Second thing, the way he acquired Lanka, he administered Lanka very well, but the way he acquired Lanka was itself in a very deceitful means. It is like buying shares while the SEBI closing happened. So he seized it from Kubera. You seize somebody else's hard work in a deceitful manner, that was also wrong. And the third point was, he was not consultative in nature. See, for example, when Hanuman burns the entire Lanka, he brings in a round table conference and asks people, what should I do now? His brother Kumbhakarna reprimands him and says, you should have asked this question to us, what should I do now, before you abducted Sita. After all the damage has been done and Lanka has to go to the IMF, he's still going to. So, you're asking for this question, which is wrong. And the fourth important point, in those days, sorry, I didn't catch your name.
So Kirtana.
Kirtana. So Kirtana, in those days, I'm talking about the times when Ramayana existed, there was a written and an unwritten rule which were synonymous. One, if a person comes seeking asylum with an open declaration that I might have committed certain wrongs, I seek complete remorse of it, I have done it wrong, please give me asylum. Whoever it is, that person has to be given asylum. That was the rule in those days. So when Vali had to misbehave with women, Vali was another king who was very good friends with Ravana. Birds of the same feather flock together. So their understanding was, if you treat women badly, I will not interfere. If I treat women badly, you should not interfere. This comes in the Uttarakanda. So a lot of the traits Kirtana found in Ravana, despite his pluses, overweighed. So the minuses overweighed. So it was not right to leave a person with such bad character in the neighboring kingdom. There could be another pertinent question, Kirtana. Rama belonged to Bharata Desham, which has Ikshvaku Vamsham. He was in another neighboring country. Why should I interfere in some other country's administration problem? Because that country came into us and misbehaved with the lady of this region. So it was also the duty of an administrator in supervision like Rama to take care of Ravana. So, have I answered your question, or do you feel that there is some gap, lacuna here? Tell me.
So can you explain a bit more about the evils in relation to the present day world, as in what we need to inculcate now from that lesson?
Okay, so let's imagine that I can use IIT for examples, right? I can? Okay, so let's imagine that there's a person, an engineer who has passed out of IIT with laurels. He goes, let's say, the next path to IIT is either IIM, or that's the career path most of your family members would have kept for you, right? So let's imagine that there's an IIM after that, and the person, the he or a she, let's assume any gender, they become the CEO of a company. Extreme laurels with that person. Very well qualified. One lady says that this man misbehaved with me, I was his secretary. What should I do? Oh, he's very well read, yeah, he's from IIT. He has seen Gajendra circle day in and day out. What should we do? अरे यार ऐसा छोटे बातें हो जाते हैं. What should we do? Should we complain as a co-employee? Should we raise it to the? Should we be the whistleblower? That's what Ravana was. Ravana was very qualified. He misbehaved with women. He did not follow the rules that was meant for those times. So Rama had to be the whistleblower and kick him off.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. There's a question from that side. You want to stop? No, I have no problem. We can take one more question. There's one more hand. Okay.
I'm Raghuram.
Hi, Raghuram.
In the recent times, there are many writers who on Ramayana and Mahabharata, but seems like it's getting a bit more distorted from the original form.
Correct.
So, is it possible to suggest some authentic English translation for each?
There are two ways to look at Ramayana. One is from the translation perspective. So, translation, in my humble opinion, again, since you've asked this question to me, Raghuram, in my humble opinion, translations are very boring. I'll tell you why. Because 40 verses in Aranyakandam, Lakshmana describes to Rama about the nature around him. He says, "Oh, the lotus-eyed one, look at the Ashoka tree with the leaves falling down. Look at the flowers that have bloomed in this season." Next verse, "Oh, the lotus-eyed one, look at that Shala tree with..." So like that 40 verses, it's full of blooming, blossoming. So for me, I would like to understand the relationship between characters, what is happening. So translations to some extent are meaningful and helpful. In that case, if you ask for Ramayana or Mahabharata, who is a decent translator, I would say the Gita Press Gorakhpur is doing a very inexpensive translation for a very, very little pie. And M.N. Dutt for Mahabharata does a good job. There was Ganguly before who did a good job. So these are all translations. But what we need more than translations is the person who is doing it for English should read the commentaries of Ramayana and Mahabharata and come up with a version which answers most of the questions that we have. In that way, I'll tell you, one big generation has gone without researching Ramayana and Mahabharata that way. That is why you have a lot of books. You have read the Ashok Banker? Ashok Banker series of Ramayana is like a trans-created, concocted version of Ashok Banker itself. So Valmiki will be aghast to look at that version. So that's one version. So there'll be many such versions. One person whom I can think of who researched in a very, very interesting fashion and came up with Ramayana lectures came in the 1933. In the Madras Sanskrit College, there was this silver-tongued man called Right Honorable V.S. Srinivasa Shastri, who has come up with a book called Lectures on Ramayana. You can understand and learn English, the language, as well as the way he has researched Ramayana from that book. Such books should come. But sadly, we don't have too many such translations. Translations, I've mentioned to you, Gita Press Gorakhpur. I can't think of any other good book that I can recommend. That's where there's a lacuna here in this space.
One more question, sir, if I may.
I would love you to ask, but there's one another person who's asking. You ask your question.
Okay. So many listen to the scriptures time and again, also do Parayanam time and again. So what is the importance of...
So Parayanam, which is like just reading the verses, is one paddhati. That is one custom that's been maintained. Like this day you'll recite 50 sargas, next day 40. In the period of 7 days, I'll complete 18,000 verses of Bhāgavatam. That helps sustain the sampradayam. See, you need to engage your audience. Audience are always not like Raghuram who want to get into the essence of scripture. Some people want it very simple. So they just do Parayanam. It goes like, one person recites, the other one repeats, one person recites, the other one repeats. All that is good. But we need Raghurams as well to understand Raghuram. Right? We need people to understand the meaning of the scriptures. So Parayanam is just recitation, plain recitation, which is good. But over and beyond that, that will not help you understand. So only through reading books, learning from great speakers, we will be able to appreciate Ramayana better. So Parayanam will help. That's good. Let that continue. Yeah. there's one person here. We'll conclude with that question. Is that okay, Keshav?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Good evening, sir. Myself, Gopalan. Our question is that we have many characters in Ramayana like Hanuman, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrughna, even Vibhishna, even Mahābhārata we have Arjuna, Yudhishthira. What we can see from them, they were extremely, they stuck to their values, they followed them very sincerely. If we see their conduct, it seems like a model conduct a person should have. It's been described in many places. It seems all very nice to hear. But when we try to implement, we face all sorts of difficulties in the world.
Okay. So, Gopalan, just looking at your question itself, you mentioned, what is the word that you used? They were all virtuous. Virtuous, and you use some word.
The person should have a model.
Good character.
Yes.
See, if character today we understand is for the man there is one woman, for the woman there is one man. If that is our understanding of character, the list of people whom you mentioned, like Arjuna, he was a many-to-one function.
Not that character, the qualities they.
Yeah, see, thanks Gopalan. So, see, when we look at the patrams in both Ramayana and Mahabharata, in my humble opinion, again, with my little analysis of whatever I've spoken for years together, they all have shades. Like, you cannot say 100% this person is perfect. Let's take Rama. I'll just give you an example. See, the way we have been accustomed to Rama is he listened to his parents, he went with his wife, he constructed the bridge for his wife. That's how we have been told. Correct. And immediately the moment his stepmother, father told him go to the forest, he said, okay, I'll leave. This is what is there in Ramayana. But there is one place. In Aranyakandam, while Viradha, the demon in the forest, comes and abducts Sita. Before Ravana abducting, there was one another kidnapping there. So Viradha comes and abducts Sita. So Rama and Lakshmana, they are in the middle of the forest. They never expected such difficult circumstances that they were put into. So they start running behind the demon. Hey, chhod do, chhod do, chhod do. They run. At that point in time, when they are running behind Viradha, who has been abducting Sita, Rama turns to Lakshmana and says, see, today my mother Kaikeyi will be happy looking at my situation. There is one verse in Aranyakandam. So, we will never be told. See, honestly, I don't blame it on any of the upanyasakas or anybody. We want the lecture to be as less controversial as possible. The moment I say this, people will ask, Nijama, avare sonnara? Avara? Ramara? See, the only Rams that we know of is in Tamil Nadu, Ram and Enram. So, the latter will not talk about the former. So, the former only told this. So, they all have shades. But what percentage it is? 99% he was fine, good, virtuous. This 1% he might have told out of, when the divine chooses to be human, they have to behave like human. And humans are always people who throw blames, right? So, that's the quality. So, they all have shades. So, if your premise is all these characters are perfect and we can learn from them, I would disbelieve in that. They all have shades. Of course, we can learn a lot of things. Hanuman, he was a monkey, he was a celibate, he did not study in the same school as Rama or Sita. He was actually going on an expedition to an unknown country to see a person whom he has never seen in his life for another person. He has never seen Sita, he has never studied with Sita, he has never studied with Rama. Now Rama's wife is missing, he goes going to another country. So this probably brings together this thought that you can actually go out of the way to help certain people. So this is a virtue that you can carry. So many characters actually give us, let's look at the positive aspect, Gopalan. Today in the society, there are so many NGOs, there are so many organizations that work for the downtrodden, for the handicapped and so on. Probably they're doing Hanuman's job. So there are positive aspects as well. But is your question answered?
My question is that when we try to inculcate those positive aspects, in our personal lives, we face a lot of difficulties.
Give me an example.
For instance, if we try to be okay, tomorrow morning 8 a.m. is the lecture, I have to wake up at 6 a.m., I have to do all these things.
Okay, wonderful.
What happens, we wake up at 7:15, we rush to our routine and we go.
Yeah. Gopalan, have you heard in Ramayana that Lakshmana was a dutiful brother, he served Rama and he did not sleep for? This is what we have been told time and again. But honestly, you tell me, I know most of us are not medical practitioners, I am not one. Even understanding the basic medical science, is it possible for some person to stay awake 14 into 365 days? Is it possible? See, medically, even for 4 days you don't sleep, you feel so weak. This man was cooking, sweeping, mopping, all ings, and he didn't sleep. Because this is what we have been told. In Ramayana, in Ayodhya Kandam, one day after Guhasargam, Rama goes and wakes up Lakshmana and tells Lakshmana, it is already sunrise, you have to wake up now. With that, the commentator says, the commentator in Sanskrit, 1000 years before he tells, thereby the general notion in the world that is going around that Lakshmana did not sleep for 14 years is untrue. Lakshmana slept. When Lakshmana slept till 8 a.m. Gopalan, come on, yeah, it's okay. क्या कर सकते हैं? 8 बजे तो ठीक है. You know, you stay awake in the late night, right? You do, Gopala? Then you'll compensate those 2 hours there. Don't worry about all that. Sit. We should conclude, Keshav? Or one more question, any other question? Oh, there's a question there. Yeah. Your name, sorry?
I am Agraj.
Agraj, okay.
Yeah, so I would like to start with a disclaimer that I am not at all a supporter of Ravan or Ram, but I would like to say that, this is my personal perspective, that all the characters in these characters in Ramayana are just the characters, and if we go by Shakespeare, there is nothing that is very sacrosanct about the names, right? So Ravan has been portrayed as a devil, Ram has been portrayed as a...
No, who portrayed him?
No, I mean in the Ramayana. Like he did some evil things, he molested
women. In the Ramayana they are not portrayed. See, the word portraying means the person is some and I am putting my thoughts in it and portraying him. So what you're saying is, in the Ramayana, Ravana is seen as a person as a good administrator and he was a molester too. Rama is a person who's seen as an administrator and who went to the forest, he lost a lot of his... This is what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So they are ases. So in the book, yeah.
So that's a story that has been plotted by Valmiki.
Plot? No. Okay.
So I would like to say, if I say like that, if that's a story plotted by Valmiki, and suppose I start writing a book, which is true after 100 years. Suppose I write in a book that the cars will fly after 100 years.
Correct.
Now after 100 years, people are not able to. I'll die, right?
Correct.
So they will say that Agraj predicted that car will fly, and now it's flying, right? So that's why I'm saying that it's a story that is plotted, and these are the characters, strong characters.
Okay, Agraj, there are 2 ways of looking at Ramayana and Mahabharatam or any other work of literature in Sanatana Dharma. One, it is a piece of literature, like how you're seeing it, which is fine.
Okay.
There's another notion, right? So the other notion is, what was seen was reported. But when it is reported, Agraj, to us, it doesn't come in the form of prose. See, today what I'm speaking is prose. What you're asking is prose. You asked, Dushyanth, is this the way that happens? I tell Agraj, this is all prose. In prose, you generally don't use similes, metaphors, onomatopoeia, and then you exaggerate. Oh, Agraj, the one with such a beautiful black shirt with white stripes. I don't speak that way. I speak in a non-poetic fashion. Whereas when Valmiki and Vyasa, though they wrote what they saw, they were poets. So imagine there was a little incident of Rama looking at Sita and offering a flower. Simple. What I would have written, Rama offered a flower to Sita. Rama, the personification of spotless beauty, with lotus petal-like eyes, gave the blossoming flowers whose petals were touched by the fresh rays of the sun. To Sita, with coyness, she bent her head down to earth. This is how he will describe. Now, my question is, sir, he has described no such 2 people met. He would have come with her own figment of imagination. 100 years later, Dharmendra will do this to Hema Malini. I am repeating your question. So, what, if at all, see, I said there are 2 ways of looking at Ramayana and Mahabharata. One, as a piece of literature. Valmiki just wrote whatever came to his mind. It has been coming for generations and we are trying to say that it happened. Version 1, am I correct? That is one version. Well, see, if that is the version, it is all the more simple. I don't have to justify anybody. So I don't have to justify anybody. Version 2 is where these questions are coming from. So I appreciate your version 1. Version 2 is where there is an incident that has happened. A person has exaggerated. So if you want to really understand Ramayana, you will have to strip that of the extra fantasy elements and see only the core story. One married the other lady. There was a real estate issue. They were sent to the forest. And then as they came to the forest, the one lady was kidnapped. She was taken to the neighboring country. Rama wanted to have a coalition, so he had it with some different extraordinary creatures of Karnataka. And then out of that, there was one celibate monkey who wanted to do some good thing for this person. He went there and came. So this is a simple story. He has given a lot of fantasy elements. That's another way to look at it. The second way believes that what is reported is what has happened. The first version believes it's a figment of imagination. That's okay. There's no harm in either of them. So if you want to believe in version 1, which says that it's a figment of his imagination, it's okay. There's no harm. See, this is where I often tell, Sanatana Dharma as a civilization doesn't coax anybody. It leaves it. You want to believe it that way, you'll believe it. You don't want to, because even if you believe it's a piece of literature, there may be a few morals that you can learn from it. Even if you believe it's a real happening, you can learn something from it. This is what? Learning is the ultimate motto, right? Right? Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, so there's another question coming from her. I don't know, Keshav, when you ask me to stop, I'll stop. Because until they ask questions, I'll keep answering. The mess is not going to listen to them, right? So you tell me. Just one question?
Sure.
We should conclude it with a lady. Yeah. Come on. Yeah.
Hello, sir. I'm Shashwati.
Hi. Come again?
Shashwati.
Shashwati.
Yeah. So you had cited the incident of Shambhuka while you were giving an answer.
Correct.
So please correct me if I'm wrong, but the information I have about it is that he was killed because in the rule of Rama, Shudras weren't allowed to perform penance, and Rama obliged to what Rama had obliged to that rule, and he had killed Shambhuka because of that. So if this rule was in existence even before Rama, who brought this in, and why was this decided upon, and why did Rama agree to follow this inequality?
Okay, Shashwati, of course, this has been a very big debating point. I have clarified to many of the channels, and some people actually take pieces of, you can always take pieces of my own saying and then put it together and probably being a concocted version. So keeping that aside, your question is a very often asked question. First of all, I should thank you for that question. But before I answer this question, I should put a disclaimer. My answer is not to convince anybody here. Or I'm not saying that my answer is right as well. I'm just saying what I have understood and learnt of the incident. And while I begin to answer, I'll give you the context of what she asked. Many of you know the question? Okay. So, Shambhuka Vadam happens in Uttarakandam. Uttarakandam is the 7th canto of Ramayana. Balakandam, Ayodhya, Aranya, Kishkinda, Sundara, Yuddha, Uttarakandam. Uttarakandam is the last canto with close to 3,000 verses. Between 21,000 and 24,000 verses is the last canto. In that there is one particular sarga, Shambhuka Vadha. What happens in that city of Ayodhya is, they come across a series of incidents which were disastrous in however form they were. As to newborn children were dying. We call it that infant mortality rate, right? So newborn children were dying. And similar such incidents in different pockets of that large province, there were famines and droughts experienced. So the rishis now tell Rama, because Rama was perplexed as an administrator, he feels that why should such pockets have famine? Why should newborn children be dying? That is when the rishis say that as far as what we have learnt, there could be somebody who is working against the Varna Shastra. Again, this is a belief. See, I or you can choose to disbelieve, disregard or disrespect it. That's okay. But this was a belief that there were certain professions ordained for certain varnas. And there were certain facilities given for each Varna. Each Varna had its own facility, pros and cons. So when you work against the tenets of your own Varna, it was believed in those days that certain ways the nature could answer it in a different way. Even today, Thiruvalluvar, who has given Thirukkural in the state of Tamil Nadu, tells that if the king does not administer well, nature will answer in its own way to its subjects. That is why it says that if the administrator is very good, at the right time rains will come. Peyyana peyyum mazhai. So mazhai will also come at the right time. So this was a belief. So Rama goes in search of who that person could be who is working against the tenets laid in that particular constitution of that time. While he goes on, he sees one tree whose branch there was one person hanging upside down, like a Valakhilya. Valakhilyas were people who used to hang upside down. So then he understands from that person and asks, who are you? That person says, my name is Shambhuka. I have been wanting to perform penance. And Rama asks, why do you want to do penance? Which is tapam. He says, I wanted to do tapam because I want to go to Swargam. By the end of this birth, I don't want to leave away my mortal remains. I want to go with the same body to wherever I am going. Then he also says, Rama, there are two consecutive verses. He says, Rama, I know that I have not been ordained to undergo penance. I am doing something which is being told against my Varna, but I am doing that. That very moment, Rama cuts his head. This is the incident which has happened. I am just telling you as is. Now the question is, if he is performing penance for not a very super goal or something, Rama could have reprimanded him, could have punished him. Why should he lose his life? The simple way of understanding this, Shashwati, is not to put our lens of today and see it that day. Rather, we should say that in those days, those were the rules that certain Varnas were allowed to do penance, certain people were not allowed to. For example, let's say the man or the woman get into infidelity, in the sense the man is not true to his wife or the wife is not true to her husband. Today in Bharata Desham, it may go unescaped or there may not exactly be any punishments offered. But there are certain countries in the Middle East where the lady will be stoned to death. Now, from my perspective, it is wrong. If she has done a mistake, she should feel for it. The husband should ask questions, why should I stone her to death? But the question is, I am giving a decision about somebody who belongs to another country whose rules are different. Correct? Now, similarly, we should not see the work of Shambhuka from the time period we are living now. In those days, that was the rule. Again, coming to your question. Your question was, okay, he killed her. But who had formulated such rules? That was your question, right? Who had given, they bequeathed these rules, that if a person is performing, you have to cut. Who gave these rules? That was your question, correct? It is believed that our time is cyclic, but historians believe it could be linear. In that case, it is believed few of the Manus. Manu is not one person. Manu is a supervisor for a period of 71 Chaturyugas. Manu could have laid it in the book and they followed it till the T. That's all. So this incident from our today's perspective, from the way we look at equality, may seem very wrong, which is right. Fine, we are thinking that way. But from that time perspective, that was a constitution. See, just to give you an example, since this question has come, I'm just giving you an example. Last week there was a burning issue that one of the temples in Tamil Nadu from a village has been completely claimed by the Waqf board. There was a burning issue. I don't know if you've seen the news articles. So a lot of them were enraged. How could a Chola time temple, 1500 years old, belong to the Waqf board, which largely follows Islam, which is not even that many years old? That was a burning issue. I was called in many debates. My take on that was, it may seem wrong to us, but there is a Waqf board whose rule has been passed by the government. If you have to question it, repeal the law. Similarly, today when we look at Shambhukavadam, we are seeing it from today's constitutional perspective. In today's constitutional perspective, if Rama had lived and if he had killed Shambhuka today, Rama will be imprisoned. Simple. But it was in those days, those rules existed. It could have been liberal, it could have been less liberal, it could have been very orthodox, it could have been cruel. That is for us to debate. But Shambhuka Vadam happened in Ramayana times, and his decision was based on the rules laid by the Manu in those days, which may not be applicable today. Is that I don't want to convince you, but is that what you wanted as an answer? Or?
Yeah, that is kind of what I wanted, and so we can conclude to say that there are certain aspects written in our epics and
which
literature.
Can always be looked and relooked. See, many aspects of Sanatana Dharma are so flexible that you can look, relook, amend as per the times. It is a very flexible religion. Very, very flexible. Very, very flexible religion. So, we don't, as such, Shashwati, today, India, which largely forms a substratum for Sanatana Dharma, many parts of India was a substratum for Sanatana Dharma, we don't follow any of those rules given in the Manu Dharma Shastram at all, right? We have our own constitution and that gives it. Right? So, we don't. But what we do is certain aspects of Manu Dharma Shastram about character, conduct, if we can follow, we can follow. We can be selective.
Yeah.
We don't have to follow it till the T. And we don't have to defend it also. If Rama had done it today, it would have been questionable. It would have been punishable. But it is an incident that has happened in those days.
So to cite that all of this has been actually written in the epics and it is suggested or prescribed to be followed is not really...
For example, Itihasas and Puranas, be it Ramayana, Mahabharatam, Bhāgavatam, Vishnu Purānam, in my humble opinion, you can learn as well as learn to live, and you can also learn how not to live. So these are all books with lots of shades. You can take it the way you want. It's like, okay, in a metallurgy perspective, they're all completely malleable and ductile. So they're bendable either ways. You can take it the way you want. There's no harm. Absolutely no harm.
Thanks for taking the extra question.
Just to conclude Shashwati's statement, an orthodox polymath of the 13th century, whom I mentioned at the start, Vedānta Desika, 750 years before, in his book called Yadavabhyudayam, states, those things that may seem new, modern, don't discard them just because you hear the word modern. Just because something is called traditional, don't accept it blindly. Two things that the orthodox polymath in his 13th century, people endorse that statement. So if something, just because it's modern, we cannot say, oh, no, wrong. If it is conducive to you, if it is good for the society, accept it. If something is traditional and is not doing good to the society, discard it. Probably I feel that Sanatana Dharma has given us that liberty, both to Shashwati and me, to look at that way. Yeah, okay. So I think I should conclude. Thank you so much for because it's often I would say it's a belief, could be a misnomer, that science and civilization may not gel or go together. That's a general construed way. But being in IIT Madras, I felt that there are many avenues and places where civilization can actually shake hands with science. Not everywhere and at every point. Many places civilization can actually make friends with science. So thank you all. Thanks to the faculty and as well as to the students here for being the sport and staying up till 8:15. Yeah, thank you.
An insightful talk. The information you presented enlightens us on the topic. Now I request Professor Ranjit Kumar Nanda sir to present a token of gratitude and appreciation to our chief guest. Thank you, sir. Now I would like to call Mr. Pankaj Kumar for vote of thanks.
Hello. I would like to register my thanks and gratitude to our chief guest for coming to our platform and addressing the audience about the perspective of Bharat in Puranas and Itihasas. I would also like to thank the faculty members and students for joining us here. We hope to see you all at our next event very soon. Those of you who are interested in volunteer and receive updates regarding the further events, please email us at vandemataram@sml.iitm.ac.in. We have come towards the end of this program, but this program won't be complete without singing our national anthem. I would like to invite Isan and request all of you to stand in your places and sing the anthem with us.
जनगणमनाधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंग विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभाशिष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 जय